Check. What's going on, everybody? Good evening, afternoon, morning, whatever time it may be, wherever you're at, and whenever it may be at. Um, Today is Wednesday, and we are teaching world history again. Is one of our who become the king of Egypt, which would, of course, lead to in future the exodus of all Israelites from Egypt. So, my name is Aman Allah, and I'm gonna teach you guys this lesson. We're gonna go through this, and it should be edifying. It should be fun too. All right, so let's get some backtrack. So that's world history talking about Joseph's father, who was Jacob or Israel when his name was changed. So if we go to Genesis chapter 30 and verse 24, we see at this point in time the last king that was born by Jacob's favorite wife, Rachel. It happened to be Joseph. Genesis 30 and 24 says, and she, which was Rachel, called his name Joseph and said, the Lord shall add to me another son. So this was the 11th son of Israel, of Jacob, and it was Joseph. And again, if you know anything about Jacob has a tendency favorites. Jacob had his favorite wife, and as we're coming to see in due season, Jacob had a favorite son who was Joseph. It's Genesis chapter 37. I'm going to start from verse 1. And Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. And these are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah and his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. So now we're kind of already getting to see the character and the nature of Joseph. So again, Joseph being the son of his favorite wife from Jacob, and Joseph is actually overseeing the rest of his brothers doing the flocks. So that's why Joseph is at this point going back and forth, to and fro between what his brothers are doing, occupation-wise, taking care of the sheep and the flocks, and then going back and giving a report to their father. And in this instance, in this particular day, and probably not the only day, Joseph is going back to his father with just a bad report that his brothers, I guess, was not handling their business on point, our forefathers. Verse 3. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. So again, Joseph, a natural thing, showing that favoritism to Jacob, showing that favoritism to his son Joseph. It all links up, it ties together, dealing with Rachel. And he makes him a coat of many colors. So obviously this jacket or this coat must have been very different in comparison to the regular clothing that the rest of his family had, or just even the rest of Shemitic people had. This was something that made Joseph stand out, that his father approved of. But unfortunately, this was a thing that caused jealousy amongst his brethren, his 12 other brothers and such. Chapter 37, verse 4. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him. So y'all know how that goes. This is a common thing that you see in multiple places and spheres in life. You got the favorite person that in school, in the classroom, in work settings, and generally speaking, from back then to even today, the culture likes to presume that when someone is the favorite of a person that has power and authority, normally the other subordinates are not particularly fond of that person that's receiving that favor. I mean, at the end of the day, that's just called envy. That's called covetousness. And we already have a law that we're not supposed to even be like that. We need to just accept, appreciate where we're at, what we got, and the position that we're in life. And the Most High is more than willing, in whatever season that's willing to do so, increase you more if that's what you pray. At the same time, it's something where you just got to be content. Godliness is great gain, as the scriptures in the New Testament say. But his brothers was not feeling like that. Verse 5, and Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it to his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, doing work, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright, and behold, your sheaves stood around about, and made obeisance to my sheaf. So, to make matters, I guess, more grievous on his brothers, Joseph is now, amongst all the, great grace of things that he's been told about. Now he's letting his brothers know, hey, I had this dream, and basically the interpretation of it is that you guys are pretty much serving me. I'm being put in a position of favor and power, and you guys are, actually going to be, bowing down to me. And he lets his brothers know that. Why he let them know that? I'm pretty sure he wasn't the type to really rub it in their face, but he's probably just like, hey, I just want to talk. I want to communicate. I'm your brother. I'm just letting you guys know this is what it was. Seeing and noticing that this was boiling his brethren's hearts. They were becoming more bittered and more angry with him as the day went on. Similar thing that you see with Cain and Abel. Abel was doing well for this work towards the Lord. Abel wasn't. He got jealous, and Abel was the one that actually killed his brother. Seeing that, let's read on. Verse 8. And his brethren said to him, shalt thou indeed reign over us, or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. So again, just adding more fuel to the fire. There's just more reason to hate him, reject him, or just not like their brother, their blood brother. So again, Joseph, he's dreaming more dreams. He's getting more of these things. And he tells his dad too. And his dad, at least publicly amongst his family and his brethren, his dad's like, are you serious? Because now he's having the dream of the moon, the sun, and the stars, 11 of them, which is representative of his brothers. Joseph's telling him, hey, all these celestial bodies, they're bowing down to me too. So his father, let's read the scriptures. This is what his father said. Verse 10, and he told it to his father and his brethren, and his father rebuked him, and he said unto him, what is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth? Verse 11, and his brethren envied him, but his father observed the saying. So, amongst the public spirit with his family, his father, he rebuked him. It's like, what? Why? I'm your dad. She's your mom. Why would we be bowing down to you? But again, it says that his father, he observed his saying. So he went back to his room and he like, dang, maybe Joseph isn't BSing. Maybe he's telling the truth. Maybe this has some ground and validity. Because again, Jacob is recognizing Joseph and his good works, and obvious favor, from the Most High. Now he's like, okay, maybe there's something deeper to this. So he's actually considering what Joseph is saying. But brethren are blind to the fact of that matter. So that's what's going on with that. So later on, without really getting to the scriptures, later on, in the process of time, Joseph is sent out by his father, like, hey, go check on your brethren. So again, Joseph was that courier. He was basically the runner, going from site to site. No different than like a safety inspector, in construction, or the person that handles like the business money, stuff like that. They'd be like site to site, not really there, stuck doing the hard type labor. They're communicating back and forth between a base and outward. So that's what's going on with Joseph there. So, and Israel, verse 13, and Israel said unto Joseph, do not thy brethren feed thy flocks in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said unto him, here I am. And he said to him, Go, I pray thee, see whether it be well with thy brethren and with the flocks, and bring me word again. So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. So again, on that runner tip. Meanwhile, so he's on his way, and his brothers see him. And as soon as they see him, they get that arrogance and that boiling, bitterness spirit and hatred within them. So now, as they see him from afar, they're all conspiring with each other, being like, you know what? Let's kill him. Just straight up. That was the conclusion at this point, this far down the line. They decided to be like, let's kill him. Cain and Abel. Same parallel situation that we see going on here. So they're conspiring against that. But one brother, actually, in particular, the oldest brother, Reuben, decides to be like, we're not going to do that. This is verse 21. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, Let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands, to deliver him out of to his father again. So that was Reuben's intent, was to hey, let's just show him what's up. Let's throw him in this pit. But secretly, or at least within himself, Reuben's like, nah, I'm gonna return him to my father. The rest of these guys, my brothers, they're being really off right now. They really want to kill him. I don't want to do that. And it's interesting enough, this is the same Reuben that, he slept with his father's concubine. So I'm pretty sure being the oldest and then making his mistakes and then seeing another mistake that his whole brother's about to make, he's the more rational one. He's got a little more battle scars and wisdom, be like, nah, this is not going to fare well. This is not going to be a good idea. I already did my dirt. I messed up. I'm not going to allow anyone else to mess up. So Reuben, being the oldest and the older brother, he's doing the right thing. His mind is in a better state and doing the right thing than the rest of his brothers, especially considering the mistake, a fatal mistake on top of that he already did previously in the years. So they did do that. They casted him in that pit. And unbeknownst to them, while they, went to go eat, just left him in the pit for who knows how many hours, it must have been a minute, some heathens come. Some of the other nations come through, merchants and such like that. Verse 25. And they sat down to eat bread, his brothers, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels, bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. So these are merchants, some type of merchants, traders that are coming through, just on their way, and, outpost to outpost. And Judah said unto his brethren, What profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? So, Judah now is coming to the maybe that wasn't such a good idea, but again, sparked on by Reuben at first. Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hands be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh, and his brethren were content. So Judah has actually came up with the idea, is like, okay, let's not kill him, but let's get rid of him. Let's sell him to these other nations, and let them do what they're going to do with them. Now, let alone, we know in our law, if you even sell one of our brethren, that's still a deed punishable by death. So still, Judah thinking that it was a less harsh sentence for him, still not in the spirit, realizing that this is something has a grievous punishment to it. So our brethren, our brothers, forefathers, they was tussling and hustling, trying to figure out this life. Repentance right now in America have been doing, both out of the faith and in the faith, still trying to figure it out and get together. So that's Judah's reasoning. Verse 28. Then there passed by Midianites merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt. So before Judah can even commence his idea and probably to convince his brethren, the Midianites instead did that. And that's technical blood off of Judah's hand for not doing it himself or not allowing their brothers to do that, even though the idea came to fruition. And again, this wasn't Reuben's idea. You know, Reuben's probably the one being like trying to calm and, you know, be the mediator and try to give the best reasoning within all the 12 brothers and stuff like that. You know, and then, you know, you have Judah giving his suggestions. So Reuben initially, again, he didn't want any of this to happen to Joseph. He was trying to return him back to his dad, just like on the low. Verse 29. And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he rent his clothes. So again, Reuben wasn't the one that was not trying to do anything bad to Joseph. Reuben was solid in his brotherhood. And verse 30, and he returned to his brethren and said, the child is not, and I, whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat and killed a kid of the goats and dipped the coat in blood. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, this have we found, know now whether it be thy son's coat or no. So now, you know, amongst the many, you know, devising of evil schemes, now they got to devise another scheme, or they decide to rather devise another scheme to pretty much hide their fault and basically, how do you call that? I mean, they make up a lie, you know, call spade a spade. They make up a lie, an elaborate one. They kill one of their flock and spread that on the coat of many colors that belonged to Joseph. And now they're going to make it appear that, oh, Joseph got slaughtered, you know, by a wild beast and an animal. You know, they divided him up, ate him, stuff like that. This is what's left over. So that's their reasoning for losing the favorite son of their father. You're like, okay, this is probably better than just letting him know, oh, he got lost and sold. You know, we don't know what to do, because then they would have to pay for that. Their father would, I mean, consider this. Back at this time, fathers, no problem, their own kids in order to make retribution of, you know, for wrongdoings and stuff like that. So, you know, looking out for themselves, they're like, this is the best solution that we can come up with, you know, to save our behinds. So Jacob, you guys, Israel finds this out. He becomes extremely depressed because, again, that's his favored son, you know, from his formerly favored wife, who is also passed away and dead. So he's got two of his favorites, well, we're going to say 2 out of 3 of his favorites that are gone. So Jacob is now mourning, you know, longer than what the scriptures say in Sirach, than you should, actually, too. I'm going to read that for you guys. Verse 34, and Jacob rent his clothes and put sackcloth upon his loins and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him. But he refused to be comforted and said, for I will go down into the grave unto my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him. So, yeah, it hurt Jacob pretty bad that apparently his son got destroyed and torn by wild beasts, you know, his favorite son. Meanwhile, in Joseph's perspective, verse 36, and the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. So Joseph is, you know, meanwhile on the trek, he gets sold into the land of Egypt, a land of great wealth, you know, at the time, and he comes into basically a position of dwelling with royalty. That's who he gets sold to. So Joseph must have, for 20 pieces of silver and to be sold into a royal house, Joseph must have been something worth saying. He was probably goodly looking. He probably had just good skills that they seen that they liked him for. But ultimately, at the end of the day, as we're going to read this, he was in the favor and the grace of the Most High. We're going to talk about that too later. Chapter 38 in Genesis doesn't really have to do too much with Joseph. I'm going to just briefly say it's about Judah and some of the antics, one of the antics rather, that he does, and concerning the law with raising seed to your brother if your brother passes. That's what chapter 38 is more so about, and again, concerning Judah. So we're not going to really talk about that because it don't really concern Joseph. So I'm going to jump to chapter 39 for you guys. 39 and verse 1. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. So remember what I said about that favor? We're going to explain that right now. Verse 3. And his master saw that Yahweh, the Lord, was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer of his house, and all that he had he put into his hand. So this is very special and important because it explains why Joseph got put in the situation, even before his brothers conspired against him, and currently did. It explains why Joseph had to go through what he went through. The Most High favored him and was like, I'm going to use you in that favor. And part of that, how can you say, part of the perks of that favor that you get is everything that you seemingly do that you think that you can see anyone else do, the Most High increases that like tenfold and how much, the more. And I'm sure, too, Joseph was very good at what he did regardless. But it's just that extra perk is the Most High in his, infinite wisdom and spirits around him, blessing all that he does. Let me explain that to you guys real quick in the book of Sirach. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 11. And I'm going to start from verse 11, actually. So it says this. There is one that laboreth and taketh pains and maketh haste, and is so much the more behind. Again, there is another that is slow and hath need of help, wanting ability and full of poverty. Joseph, for sure at this point, is definitely full of poverty, being sold by Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. Full of poverty, I, the Lord, looked upon him for good and set him up from his low estate, and lifted his head up from misery, so that many that saw it marveled at him. And even Potiphar marveled and seen that the Lord Yahweh was with Joseph. Verse 14, prosperity and adversity, life and death, poverty and riches come of the Lord. And I'm going to skip down for you guys. Verse 17 in Sirach, chapter 11. The gift of the Lord remaineth with the godly, and his favor bringeth prosperity forever. There is that waxes rich by weariness and pinching, and this is the portion of his reward. So basically, Sirach is basically telling you about what I just said. There's certain people that do all that they can do to, work hard, pinch their money, go on their savings, and, all that is worth, it's salt when you do that. But it's nothing in comparison when the favor of Yahweh is upon you, which is what Joseph had. That's what this chapter in Sirach is trying to explain. And now we're going to jump back into Genesis. 39 and 5 in Genesis. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of Yahweh was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. So again, you see that similar happen with Jacob when he was dwelling with Laban. Everything that he was doing with the flock with Laban, Jacob, that got blessed and prosperous too. And guess what? Laban seen that. Laban noticed that and seen that. It's the same thing now with Joseph carrying the torch and the house of the Egyptians. The Egyptians are now becoming even more blessed because of Joseph's presence with them. So they automatically, if not just for character alone, they like him because of what he's bringing to the table. So Joseph is become favored amongst men in many ways, many ways and many different levels at this point now in Egypt, which is definitely going to make his being sold there, I guess, hurt a little bit less when everything around you is kind of, working out regardless of you being away from your family for years to come, as we're going to find out. So Joseph's doing well in the house of Pharaoh, in the Egyptians, and there's a particular instance where he's doing so well that Pharaoh's own wife wants to commit adultery with him. So she's pressing him day by day, be like, hey, let's sleep with me, lay with me. And Joseph's like, that's a grave sin. I'm a great guy. I'm a righteous man. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. So this woman, though, is still pressing the issue to Joseph until one day, eventually, one particular moment, she basically has him cornered, and Joseph has to figure out a way and dip. He has to dip out hard and bad, and in the process of doing that, he leaves his coat behind in the bedchamber of Pharaoh's wife. And that's in let's read that real quick. Verse 12 in chapter 39 in Genesis. And she caught him, this is the wife of Pharaoh, she caught him by the garment, saying, lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand. So he got out of that. He's like, oh, no, keep that for you. And he left his garment in the hand and fled and got him out. And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house and spake unto them, saying, see, he had brought in a Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried a loud voice. And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled and got him out. So, for whatever reason, the tide had turned with with Pharaoh's wife, and now she just decides to be like, I'm going to despise him. And that's, that literally comes along with that. Whenever you have that favor and that grace of the Most High, you get both sides of the coin. You get that favor amongst men, and you also get that evil and envious eye amongst men as well too. I mean, look at Joseph's own brothers. That's how they felt. And again, Joseph was already favored at 17 just with his father, the specific work task he was doing. So again, now he's the same thing just with this woman now. So she's like, if I can't have him, nobody can, put him to death, or false accuse him. Let's talebear. She starts to talebear against Joseph. So in doing that, Joseph goes to prison. The word goes out because this is Pharaoh's wife, so he's going to kill his woman. It makes sense, too, because his clothes are here. He left his clothes. Similar situation with the deceivingness and the framing a situation that didn't happen that his brothers did with killing the kid, that goat, and for his coat. So, man, Joseph's garments and his clothes just seem to be getting him in set up in big trouble. So now Joseph, he's in prison. He's in prison, and this is what the Most High decides to do for him in prison. And it came, verse 19, and it came to pass when his master heard the words of his wife, which he spake unto him, saying, after this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. And Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound. But Yahweh was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison. And whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. So again, Joseph keeps getting put in this position to where he's like, I'm second in command. He was second in command to his father. He was second in command for the time with Potiphar, which is the officer of Pharaoh. And now he's second in command even in prison, in jail, to the jailer. So basically, he's running the jailer's business for him. Everything that's supposed to business-wise go through with the jailer, Joseph is taking care of that. So he's learning the work of that trade. So this man Joseph, his wisdom keeps increasing because he keeps doing multiple occupations and multiple different jobs because of the favor that's shown with him. So he's learning a lot and getting a lot of knowledge from these positions he keeps getting put in. Verse 23, The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because Yahweh was with him. And that which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. So we see Joseph has a steady uprise into becoming a king in Egypt. So chapter 40, without really digging into too much of it, while in prison, Joseph encounters two people, a butler of Pharaoh and a baker, his cook. And both of them, had lost favor with Pharaoh at that time, so he threw him into prison. So while they're in prison, they come across Joseph and they start having dreams. And they're like, oh, man, we have all these dreams. Da, 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 da. Joseph's like, oh, I know about dreams. I can interpret dreams. The Most High is with me. So Joseph interprets both of the servants' dreams, the butler and the baker. And he basically lets them know, you, the butler, good things are going to happen to you. The Pharaoh is going to eventually forgive you for how he felt, and you're going to be back in the house and serving him, cups of wine. That's what you're going to be doing. And, that's a good report. And Joseph tells him, matter of fact, I'll read the scripture for you. Genesis 40 and verse 14. But this is Joseph speaking, but think on me when it shall be well with thee, to the butler, and show kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. So Joseph's like, yeah, I'm trying to get out of this prison ward, though, low-key. So I interpreted the dream for you. It's going to be well for you, but just make sure you put in a good word for me when you do get back to Pharaoh. Don't forget about me. Remember the good I did to you. So that's what he did to the first servant. Now, the second servant, the baker, he has this dream too, but in his dream, basically becomes interpreted as being, yeah, it's not looking too good for you. You're about to get put to death. You're about to get hung pretty much. So Joseph is interpreting those dreams. They come to pass. The butler gets in good standing. The baker, however, he gets in bad standing. Verse 20 in chapter 40. And it came to pass that the third day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all of his servants. And he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again. And he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker and Joseph, as Joseph had interpreted to him. So again, that's what happens with that. But again, this is all a setup to something greater that would be coming to happen very soon, as far as Joseph's ability to interpret dreams through the Most High. Chapter 41, verse 1. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years, so 2 years after this situation with being in jail and whatnot, that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. So Pharaoh's having a dream. Basically, in his dream, what he has is he has two separate dreams. In the first dream, he dreams of cattle. He dreams of cattle. 7 cattle come up to him out of the river that are fat, and looking good, and doing their thing, living their best life. And shortly after, in that dream, 7 other cattle come that are lean or anemic and underweight and unhealthy. And those unhealthy cattle come and eat up the fat and healthy cattle. And then after that happens, Pharaoh wakes up and is like, whoa, what was that about? That's, that was kind of weird. 41 and verse 8. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled because of that dream. And he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. Verse 9. Then spake the chief butler, the man that got interpreted by his dream by Joseph, the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, hey, I do remember my fault on this day. So 2 years ago, it's been 2 years. This butler never remembered to mention Joseph to Pharaoh. But now, because Pharaoh is having this dream, he's like, oh, yeah, I forgot to keep my word about Joseph. Pharaoh's having a dream. No one can interpret this. I should probably send him to him. And 2 years later, keep my word that I made to Joseph. Verse 10. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants and put me in ward and captain the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. So again, the butler reflecting. And we dreamed a dream in one night, And I and he and dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there with us a young man, a Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. Each man according to his dream, he did interpret. So he's telling all this to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh's basically like, yeah, go get him. I want to see what he's going to say. Verse 14. Then Pharaoh sent and called to Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself and changed his raiment and came in unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream and interpret it. But this is what Joseph tells him. And Joseph answered Pharaoh and saying, it is not in me, God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. So he's letting him know, it's not me that's interpreting these dreams, it's the Most High. My soul is connected with the Holy Spirit of Yahweh, and that's what's giving me, the interpretation and the knowledge. Again, it's not coming from me and my own will. The Most High is just showing these things to me. So Pharaoh begins to explain to him, again, his dream. So what I didn't mention is that Pharaoh has two dreams. So his first dream was about, the 7 fat cattle and the 7 lean cattle that eat them. That was his first one. But Pharaoh has a second dream, which is in the likeness of the first dream. And that's important. In that dream, it was interpreted as this. I'm going to read from verse 5. And he slept and dreamed the second time, and behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears, and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. So again, the second dream that Pharaoh had was about stalks of corn, a good stock, 7 of them, doing good, but then 7 other come up that were basically bad, pretty much. Imagine corn without the cob, corn without the corn on it. Those came, and those corn ate the corn that had its fullness. So again, this is in the same likeness, dealing with the cow, as Joseph is going to interpret to Pharaoh right now. I'm going to read for you guys. Genesis 41 and verse 25. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. Talking about both of them. God has showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. And this is what the dream is. The 7 good kine are 7 years, and 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. So again, the corn dream and the cattle dream, he's letting him know it's the same thing. You got that dream twice because it's a reality that's about to happen. It's the same thing. Verse 26. 27 actually. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kind that came up after them are 7 years. And the 7 empty ears, the corn, blasted with the east wind, shall be 7 years of famine. And this is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty, just like the fat cattle and the fat ears of corn. 7 years of great plenty. Oof, where did I go? Shall be forgotten. Excuse me, I'm losing my track. I'm going to get back with you guys right now. Okay, behold, verse 29, there are 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. Verse 30, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. Verse 31, and the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine. And that's the reason why in each of those dreams, the ill-favored or the ill-nurtured, thing was eating the good-favored and the good-natured thing, cow or corn. The plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous, very grievous. Verse 32, and for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. So, sidebar, to this day, Israelites, mankind, we still have dreams. But the scriptures warn us about dreams, I mean, look at Dr. Martin Luther King and his dream. that he didn't even fabricate 100% by himself. But not all dreams are to be taken serious. But sometimes the Most High will communicate to you guys, us, through dreams. And just through this alone, the best way, if you really believe, if you're having dreams and you think it's from the Most High, see, with an interpreter through the Most High, see if it actually is something that is reoccurring. Like a reoccurring, it happens more than once. If it's not, if it's not a dream that you're getting, that's making you feel the same spirit, just like Pharaoh felt, on more than one occasion, it probably don't mean nothing. It's probably not sent from the Most High, and it's not something that you should consider yourself with. Because again, the Book of Sirach lets us know that dreams are not always what they seem, for sure, and they're not always something that you should set your heart on to try to interpret and figure out. It's just dust in the wind sometimes. But sometimes it's from the Most High, and he's trying to So after explaining that to Pharaoh, Joseph's like, all right, go, Pharaoh, it's your choice. You should go find somebody that's wise, discreet, and able to handle business, the way that business needs to be handled. You should find someone to do that. But when you do find them, this is what you should instruct them to do. So this is what Joseph instructs Pharaoh to find someone to go do. Verse 34, let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in 7 plenteous years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that the food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. So Joseph's like, look, this is what you need to do. You need to tax the food, a fifth of it, of all the food in these coming 7 years of plenteous, tax that stuff by the 5th, and store it away. Store it away in the cities. Make sure it's under the authority of Pharaoh, not anybody else, but make sure it's under the authority of the Pharaoh of Egypt, and keep gathering that year by year. So Joseph is now introducing the concept of rationing to the Egyptians, basically. So Joseph this is a wise thing that Joseph is foreseeing and telling them to do. I'm pretty sure that Hebrews did that, period, but this just became just a wise and profound thing amongst the Egyptians. Be like, oh wow, that's a smart decision to do. We should take this 5th and taxes of the food and put it away. Verse 37. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such a one as this? Talking about Joseph, a man to whom the Spirit of God is. For as much as God has told thee all this, there is no one so discreet and wise as thou art. So again, Joseph's like, you should go find someone wise. And at this point, Pharaoh's like, we found him, it's you. No one else has told me or us anything as instructional and of good favor and wise as you have. So you know what? You're going to be that guy. You're going to be second to me. This is what Pharaoh is letting Joseph know at this point. Verse 40, thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. So that's how Joseph becomes second in all the land of Egypt, is because of the wisdom that the Most High allowed him to know and to show unto a royal house with the Pharaoh. So Joseph has, he has all this favor. Pharaoh gives him Pharaoh gives him a wife whose name, in verse 45, is Asenath, and she bears him 2 kids, which become Ephraim and Manasseh. You guys can read that in verse 51. So Joseph is doing well. He's doing well. He's got a family. He's another occupation in life, in the house of Egypt, and gain more skill, experience, and knowledge doing during the 7 good years. So again, Joseph, Egypt, considering the 7 years, 7, 8, 9, because of the 2 years in prison. I'm pretty sure before he was in prison, the scriptures tell you how long he was there working under Potiphar. So he's been in Egypt for some time. Again, 17. At 17, he got sold to Egypt. So now it's been about 10 years. 10 years up until this point, being under Pharaoh's house and second to him. With the 7 years of plenty all passed, and now the 7 years of famine have come upon all the land, Egypt, Canaan, everywhere, and this is this section of that story. Genesis chapter 41 and verse 53. And the 7 years of plenteousness that was in the land of Egypt were ended. Verse 54, and the 7 years of dearth or famine began to come, according as Joseph had said, and the dearth was in all the lands. But in all the land of Egypt there was bread, because again, they took the fifth of all the bread of the food, the 7 years of plenteous and prosperousness. Verse 55, and when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said unto all the Egyptians, go to Joseph. Go unto Joseph, and what he said to you, do. So Pharaoh is literally like, yeah, you know, I'm the head of all this, but man, talk to Joseph. Let Joseph handle the business. Joseph has all full control of this. And you know, it's that's how much power there is in being a servant sometimes. Because again, the servant is the one that's doing all the work, you know, and then the head or the supervisor, you know the deal, you know, at work, you know, especially on entry-level jobs. You got your supervisor that's basically getting paid more money to kind of not really do anything. He's doing paperwork and such like that, you know. Talking about in modern day life, but really it's the employees that are running, you know, the gears, you know, and greasing the wheels. So if the employees just had the modern day, if employees had as much wisdom as, you know, a supervisor or that as Joseph had, it'd be the same situation, you know. The supervisor would be like, oh yeah, talk to, you know, he's this, you know. So that's what Joseph is experiencing. So Joseph is the one that really has, not in title, but he's the one that has all the power. Joseph basically has all the power because the power, Pharaoh, is like, talk to him. I don't know what to do. Joseph is the one with the wisdom and got us to this point. So y'all figured out whatever he says to do that. And that means Joseph can say anything, which again is going to work in favor for Joseph, blessing his bloodline, his seed, his family, as what's going to come to pass. Yeah, so let's get into that. Verse 56 in chapter 41. And the famine was over all the face of the earth, everywhere, even back in Canaan where Jacob and the 11 patriarchs were, all over the earth. And Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold unto the Egyptians. And the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt. And all the countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn, because that the famine was so sore in all lands. So again, Joseph is like the international hub. Joseph is like, for food, he's like Los Angeles. Los Angeles is like the hub for entertainment, maybe not music, because I think Atlanta is actually that. But, you know, Los Angeles, big major cities, you know, are like the international crossways for certain trades and occupations. That was the same thing with Joseph for all the land, all the Middle East, the Fertile Crescent, Mesopotamia, the Babylonians, the Ishmaelites, the Midianites. Everyone was coming to Egypt under Joseph's authority to buy food from him because of what the Most High allowed to happen and because of what Joseph suggested. That was where all the storehouse food was, and everyone's got to eat. So the food industry is probably a good place to probably be in, you know, when ish hits the fan. Be around the food industry. Chapter 42, verse 1. Now, when Jacob, going back home, Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said to his sons, why do you look one upon another? So he's like, y'all just staring at each other. Go do something. Go do something. Go to Egypt. Verse 2, and he said, behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. Verse 3, and Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. Verse 4, but Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent not with his brethren, for he said, lest perhaps peradventure mischief befall him. So again, you can see Jacob, Israel, he loved to take care of his favorites, you know, from, again, Rachel, who was loved more than Leah. So the Most High closed Rachel's womb, and ultimately Rachel only gave birth to 2 of Joseph's favorite sons, Joseph, who, to his understanding, is dead, and Benjamin, both the sons of his favorite wife, and Joseph still showing that favor to now Benjamin by not allowing Benjamin to go with his brothers to Egypt. He's like, I'm not losing this one. You know, I lost Joseph already and my wife, so I'm not going to lose, you know, my favorite seed amongst all the seeds, because he's probably like, low-key, like the rest of y'all, I didn't even want all y'all. Low-key, I didn't want 12 sons from 3 other different wives other than the wife that I wanted. So again, that's just the way Jacob is, you know, thinking and considering with his favor and such like that. But he got what he got. And at the end of the day, the Most High is what allowed that to happen. Verse 5 in chapter 42. And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine in the land was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor of the land, and it was with it that sold to all the people of the lands. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the earth. Verse 7. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, whence come ye? And they said, from the land of Canaan, to buy food. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said unto them, ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. So now, Joseph is now realizing and seeing all the dreams that I had back when I was 17, they literally have came to pass. You guys, my brother, are bowing down to me and giving obeisance to me, because guess what position I'm in? I'm second in Egypt. So the Most High and the dream that he gave me, it actually just came to pass. But at this point, and for some time a little bit after, Joseph is not revealing himself to his brethren. You can say almost too that this is a little bit of the recompense, or like their judgment that, you know, is given to them. So Joseph is, for a set period of time, I think a couple years actually, he is toying with his brother. We're going to briefly talk about. I don't want to get into too much because it's a lot of words, but it could basically summed up as this. Joseph recognizes his brothers. He puts on a front, basically, and is rude to them, which is deserving because they was rude and hateful of him. So he's kind of returning that favor, but he's not trying to be as wicked. But he's being rude to his brothers, but at the same time, helping them out too. So he's making them like, he's flexing on them pretty much and making them like, I'm the boss here, you know. I think y'all spies. And his brethren, you know, not knowing the matter, like, nah, we just want to buy corn, you know. We just want to eat and go home, you know, and handle our business. But again, Joseph is toying with them. He's messing with them because, you know, why not? Look what they did to him. Verse 14, I'm going to start there. And Joseph said unto them, that it is that I spake unto you, saying, ye are spies. Verse 15, hereby ye shall be proved. By the life of Pharaoh ye shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither. So in the process of them explaining, nah, we're just here to buy food, Joseph is, you know, being inquisitive to them. Like, are you sure? You know, who's your family? Where are you guys from? And they tell him, like, oh, yeah, we're of 12 brethren. You know, Joseph, our dad, you know, in Egypt. One of our brothers actually didn't come with us. And one of our other brothers, you know, he's not, you know, he died, you know, pretty much. But it was 12 of us from our father. So now Joseph's like, okay, yeah, okay. Thanks for that information. I'm going to frame a narrative now, which is ironic because Joseph has been getting framed narratives from his brothers to Potiphar's wife. He's like, I'm gonna frame a narrative. You guys prove yourselves. Go home and get your brother. Get your youngest brother. I want to see if that's true. Bring him, leave, come back, and then if that's true, I'll let you guys go. And in that process, actually, Joseph keeps one of the brothers that came to Egypt. He keeps one of them actually in jail, which is Simeon. He keeps Simeon and tells him, y'all go back, prove yourselves, bring that brother of yours if he is, and then if that's true, I'll let you guys buy as much corn as you need, and you won't be under the FBI watch list pretty much as international spy that upon your head. So that's what he's explaining to his brethren. While they're in ward, in prison, basically. Let's start at verse 21. So in the process of them going through all this ordeal. And they said one to another, we are verily guilty concerning our brother. So again, now they're being like, dang, everything that we did 10 plus years ago, all that stuff is coming back upon us. We're guilty. That's why this is happening to us. No, not that whole, why, woe is me, why is this happening? They're like, nah, this is the reason. What we did to our brother and allowed him to get sold, this is why we're going through this. And they said one to another, we are verily guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come upon us. And Reuben answered them, and saying, spake I not unto you, saying, do not sin against the child, and ye would not hear. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. So they knew about, karma, which whatever you would call it, reaping what you sow. They realized, this is why I'm going through this. Verse 23, and they knew not that Joseph understood them. So Joseph's like, oh, so y'all finally, you get it. You understood that y'all did me dirty. All I was trying to do was just be your brother and tell you what was going on, and y'all hated me for that. So he hears that and understands that, and it's like this is allowing Joseph and his true character to be like, okay, I'm gonna show them some mercy. At least they learned their lesson that what they did was wrong to me, but we are where we're at. But he's still playing the game though with his brothers. Verse 24, and he turned himself about from them and wept, and returned to them again and communed with them, and took from them Simeon and bound him before their eyes. So again, Simeon stays in Egypt. Joseph sends them out, but he doesn't send them out empty-handed. He sends it out with food. He's like, okay, y'all have some food, and unbeknownst to you, I'm gonna send you guys the money that you guys are supposed to pay for this food. I'm gonna put that in the bags. But his brothers didn't know that, so they just got the bags. He sends them out, and they get back home, and they open their bags of food, and they see the money in there with the food, and they're like, oh no, this is gonna turn against our heads. So they're like anxious. They're feeling anxious, like, dang, not only did we not look like we paid for the money, but we got to tell our father that we need to bring Benjamin back here in order to consistently make sure that we can buy food. Otherwise, we're not allowed in the land. I'm going to start from verse 35 in chapter 42. And it came to pass, as they emptied their sacks while they're back at home in Canaan, that behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. Verse 36, and Jacob their father said unto them, me have ye bereaved of my children. Joseph is not, and Simeon is not. So, all right, so Jacob going in on their kids, like, dang, you left, and we're missing a son? Simeon is in prison, and all y'all came back just with food and money that y'all didn't even pay for? He's definitely going in on his kids, the unfavored kids on top of all that. Simeon is not, and ye, now to top it all off, he's saying to them, and ye will take Benjamin away? All these things are against me. So he's like, man, all this da-da-da-da, and then you want to take my favorite son, Benjamin, now, too? Y'all tripping. This can't be real. But they're like, nah, Dad, this is literally how it is. If we don't do this, we're going to starve here. We got food now, but how long is that going to last? Verse 37, And Reuben, the oldest, spake unto his father, saying, slay my 2 sons. So remember what I said? That's how serious it was back then, to the point to where, like, man, we killing family members in order to make sure that things are retributed and done right, if need be. Slay my 2 sons, if I bring him not to thee, talking about Benjamin. Deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him to thee again. And he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief befall him by the way in which ye go, then shall ye bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. So Jacob's like, I don't care whoever you talk to, you're not taking Benjamin. Benjamin's not going back with you. Y'all not going nowhere. So we're at a stalemate. We're just going to stay here. So for I think a couple years, 2 years, I'll get that in the scripture for you to verify, but for like 2 years, not 2 years, for a good amount of time, Joseph's refusing to let them go back, which I'm sure they wanted to go back immediately to go get Simeon, and get some more food to bring Benjamin. Jacob's like, nah, y'all not doing that. You're not taking Benjamin. Chapter 43, verse 1. And the famine was sore in the land. And it came to pass, when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought from Egypt, that their father said unto them, go again, and buy us a little more food. And Judah spoke unto him, saying, the man, which was the governor, or Joseph, the man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. So it's like, Dad, we told you, we can't go back until we get Benjamin. Like, we can't go back. Otherwise, he's going to think we're spies, and probably it's worse. And worse to probably Simeon, since he's in prison there still. So, again, however much time passed, Simeon was there probably for, like, I said 2 years. That's a mistake. He was there probably for, like, however long it took to eat up all their food, probably a month or 2, or maybe less. But Simeon is just there in Egypt in ward. Verse 4. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. And Israel said, self-loathing, wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whither you had yet a brother? So his dad's like, why'd y'all even tell him that you had Benjamin? So, Jacob's just kind of in his feelings. He's like, man, this is some bullshit. You're like, why do y'all even talk about this? Verse 7. And they said, the man asked us straightly of our state and of our kindred, saying, is your father yet alive? The whole deal, yada, yada, yada. Verse 8. And Judah said unto Israel his father, look, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die. But we and thou also are little ones. I will be sure for him. Of my hand thou shalt require him, if I bring him not unto thee, and set him before thee. Then let me bear the blame for him forever. So again, a concept in law that we have with our people is surety. Basically, you taking the blame or fault or insurance, basically, of anything that might happen bad or good even too, put it on me. Don't put it on nobody else. I'm going to take somebody else's fault for them, pretty much. So Judah's like, put me, make me the insurance person, basically. So if you don't understand how the whole reason why you pay for car insurance is that in case you get into an accident yourself, the car insurance company, by you giving them their fee, if you do get into that accident, the insurance company now will cover that massive damage of that car accident that you got into, that you don't have to take care of yourself. All you got to do is just give them, a few chips here and there, on a monthly basis. But once that catastrophic event happens, the insurance company will cover it for you. What's going on, brother? You can come through. Yeah, you can come inside. If you're looking for Tazaiwan, they're in the back. Yeah, just go through that door right there. Yeah. So anyway, so that's how surety works. Surety in Hebrew law is basically insurance. What's going on, bro? Y'all back there. It's insurance. It's a cover, pretty much. So that's what happened with that. Judah basically is like, I'm gonna be the insurance guy. Anything major that happens, put it on me. So basically, they go back into Egypt. with Benjamin this time. Verse 15 in chapter 43. And the men took that present, and they took double the money in their hand and Benjamin, and rose up and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. And when Joseph saw Benjamin, which is his blood brother through Rachel, with them, he said to the ruler of his house, bring these men home and slay and make ready, for these men shall dine with me tonight at noon. So now he's about to make a feast with them. So they're probably like, what? This is kind of weird. I thought we was, suspects, and now we're about to feast with, all right, cool. That's what we're going to do. And as the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house, verse 18, and the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house. And they said, because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time we are brought in. So again, the brethren, not knowing that Joseph was the one that put their money back with them, they're still like paranoid, thinking like, dang, the only reason why he's bringing us into this house is to basically like get us to get a confession pretty much, good cop, bad cop. Let me give you this McDonald's, let me give you this this meal and food, and you just tell me, everything that happened, snitch on, the homies type deal. So that's what they're like afraid of, like, dang, we're about to get caught, and we didn't even do anything. Wasn't the one to put our money in the bags. It was just there. We don't know what to do. So they're like, dang, we got set up. We got framed. So they scared with that. But Joseph, in his governor disguise mode, assures them and lets them know, don't worry about it. Verse 23. So Joseph, and he said, peace be unto you, fear not. Your God and the God of your father had given you treasure in your sacks. Talking about that money. I had your money, and he brought Simeon out unto him. So Simeon now is free at the feast of Joseph, the governor. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their asses provender. And they made ready the present against Joseph. Came to noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there. So, all these good things are going down and happening with Joseph. He's seeing his brother. Joseph eventually, loses composure after seeing his brother Benjamin, and he's like, I'll be right back. So he goes to, the bathroom real quick, and he starts crying because he's like, man, I can't believe I've just seen my favorite brother. The brother that I grew up with in my house. Joseph and Benjamin were blood brothers from the same mother, because Jacob had three other wives. So that's usually how that deal works. When you got multiple wives, them and their kids stay in their proper respect in their house. Joseph and his brothers stayed in their respect in their proper house. So Joseph is getting really emotional seeing his brother Benjamin, pretty much. So with that happening, we can skip through this because that's, it's just him and his brother, him playing his brothers pretty much as governor, not letting them know. And he's happy to see Benjamin. So let's go to chapter 45 amongst all of that. Chapter 45, verse 1, then Joseph could not refrain himself anymore. So he's like, I can't play anymore. Before all of his brothers that stood before him. And he cried, because every man go out from me. He's talking to the Egyptian servants. And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren. And he wept aloud, and the Egyptians and the house of Pharaoh heard. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph. Doth thy father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence. So he surprises his brothers, like, hey, it's me. I've been dealing with you this whole time. It's probably been a couple months, such like it's been me, Joseph, the whole time. I'm still here. I'm alive. So again, this is like 12, 15. Shoot, Joseph was 17 when he got sold. At this point in time, Joseph was, if not 30, past 30. So this is like, 14 years after the matter, seeing his brother seeing him in the flesh for the first time, and they're just like, oh, whoa, whoa, what's going on? So he lets him know, he lets him know what's going down. So it's a big family reunion, in Egypt, in Pharaoh's house at this point in time, and they, they make reconciliation. Verse 14, and he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept. Moreover, he kissed and wept upon them, and after that his brethren talked with him. So, they got a good family reunion going on. So, all cards are on the table at this point. They know what's going down. Joseph is the governor, and Joseph is still alive in his brother's eyes. And now they get to send word to that to their father. So they get to all go back home, with more food, more corn, out of Joseph's command. Simeon goes back with them, Benjamin goes back with them, and Jacob gets word of that, and Jacob, obviously, of course, is happy that his favorite son is actually still alive after all years, 14 plus. Chapter 46, chapter 45, and from verse 25. And they went up out of Egypt and came into the land of Canaan unto Jacob their father, and told him, saying, Joseph is yet alive, and he is governor over all the land of Egypt. And Jacob's heart fainted, for he believed them not. And they told him all the words of Joseph, which he had said unto them. And when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob their father revived. And Israel said, It is enough. Joseph, my son, is yet alive. I will go to see him before I die. So now, this is the whole back and forth going down. Jacob now wants to go visit his son in Egypt with the rest of his brethren. So they're like, all right, let's take a journey. We about to go into Egypt, all together to buy food this time and to see my son. So that's pretty much what goes down in chapter 46. That's what goes down in chapter 46. So the whole family and the house of all Israelites at this point in time go into Egypt. All the kids and sons of all the 12 patriarchs, including Jacob himself, go to visit Joseph. So Genesis chapter 46 and verse 28. And he sent Judah before him unto Joseph to direct his face unto Goshen. And they came into the land of Goshen. And Joseph made ready his chariot and went up to meet Israel his father to Goshen, and presented himself unto him. And he fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while. And Israel said unto Joseph, Now let me die, since I have seen thy face, because thou art yet alive. And Joseph said unto his brethren and unto his father's house, I will go up and show Pharaoh, and say unto him, My brethren and my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me. And the men are shepherds, for their trade had been to feed cattle. And they had brought their flocks and their herds and all that they have. And it shall come to pass, when Pharaoh shall call you and say, What is your occupation? That ye shall say, Thy servants' trade hath been about cattle from our youth even until now, both we and also our fathers, that ye may dwell in the land of Goshen. For every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians. So, again, Joseph in his wisdom is starting to see this is a good thing that, we're still in this famine. This 7 years famine is still going down. But now he's saying, look, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to get all of our family out of Canaan, and I'm going to tell Pharaoh, you guys should go to the land of Goshen, because there the land is good, and there you can still be shepherds, which is the family trade, and you can still be prosperous and live and still be amongst me. And I'm going to show you guys favor because y'all my peoples, y'all my blood, y'all my family. So I'm going to tell this to Pharaoh, and then when Pharaoh comes to you, you just rehearse everything that I'm telling you back to him, and it's going to be well with you guys, with my family and such like that. So that's what's going down in chapter 47. And Pharaoh has his favor shown towards Jacob, because of Joseph's sake. 47 verse 11. And Joseph placed his father and his brethren and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, and the best of the land, and the land of Ramses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph nourished his father and his brethren and all his father's household with bread according to their families. And there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore, so that the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted by reason of the famine. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the corn which they Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. Verse 15. And when the money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, Give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For the money faileth. So it's getting so bad at this point in time, with this famine, that even money itself, which is the medium between, goods for goods that are actually valuable resources, the money itself is useless. And we see the same thing with that going down today in America, and something we should consider here too. Money itself, these American dollar bills, English pounds, cowrie shells, whatever the trade is used for, gold even, eventually, if it gets that bad and people are trying to just have the bare minimum resources of food and shelter to take care of their bodies, that stuff's going to be useless. If the money fell back then, more than 2,000 years ago, we could definitely expect that this being spiritual Egypt today, the money's going to fail as well today. So basically what I'm trying to say in the wisdom with that, just to keep for the history lesson, it's good if you have an actual occupation or a trade that's actually useful as far as maintaining the basic resources in life, within food, shelter and such like that, construction or cattle herding. Again, our forefathers, that was their original trade. They were shepherds. And as a shepherd, you have a lot of stuff going on for you. You got basically food at your disposal. You have transportation at your disposal, taking care of different various types of animals. You got, you basically have, what is that called? You low-key have husbandry at your disposal, because having animals and having land, those animals help out the land as well too when they're grazing upon it. That helps with being, making a vineyard and such like that. So again, just to say that having trade money just to have money for whatever you may doing, trade and skill is just as valuable in the long run than just, having some BS type, work that's getting you money. Because money can and will, as it did before, it will fail. And once that's done, this is what we're going to see what happened to the Egyptians and was when the money failed. Genesis 47, we'll start at verse 16. And Joseph said, Give your cattle, and I will give for you your cattle if money fail. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for their horses, and for the flocks, and for the cattle of the herds, and for the asses which fed them bread for all their cattle in that year. So right now, what's up, brother? You can, chill and do what you got to do. So just to eat alone, the Egyptians are now just selling their own animals. They got to sell their cattle to Joseph, who now has that capital and property, and that's going all the way funneled back to Israel, the 12 tribes and Jacob. That's all going back to our family. And all they're getting is bread or food, really. And who really has the food when we're the one preparing the food? We're the one probably slaughtering and killing sheep and goats and stuff like that for meat. We're the one actual land that the cattle is taken care of to grow rice and corn and such like that. So all the real control is in the land of Goshen, where Joseph has cleverly put his whole family at. Especially because the Egyptians don't even like Hebrews anyway. So they're like, ugh, Hebrews? The scriptures literally say that the Hebrews to the Egyptians were an abomination. That's a strong word. Hebrews were literally a disgust to the Egyptian people. So when they was in the land of Goshen, they're like, that's cool, stay over there. We're not trying to be next to y'all anyway. But again, all this works in the favor towards Yahweh's favor towards Israel, and his promises. All this stuff is falling into plan and into play through the Most High. So again, talking about the importance of, having, as Israelites, a good trade that's self-sufficient. Verse 18, when that year was ended, they came unto him the second year and said unto him, We will not hide it from my Lord, how that our money is spent. My Lord also hath our herds of cattle. So again, the Egyptians talking about, man, the money is trash. You guys have all of our cattle, our animals, and let's see what else. You guys have our herds of cattle, and there is not aught left in the sight of my Lord, but our bodies on our lands. So again, the same Egyptians and people that was selling cattle and their animals for food and bread and whatnot, they eventually run out of that. And all that they have left, they said, now at this point, we don't have anything of valuable to give you so that we can stay eating other than ourselves, our bodies, and our lands. And Joseph's like, yeah, run that. You guys can, your bodies, you guys can be my servants. You guys can work for me. And I'll pay you, I'll pay you what you need to eat in bread so you can stay alive. But your lands too, those are also going to be mine. So the lands that were yours, you're now working under me. That's Joseph utilized and ran them falling into poverty. The Egyptians, the other nations, the heathens. So again, the bottom of verse 18. There is not aught left in the sight of my Lord, but our bodies and our lands. Verse 19. Wherefore shall we die before thine eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh, and give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. And Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh. And again, Joseph works for Pharaoh. And for the Egyptians sold every man his field, because the famine prevailed over them. So the land became Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he removed them to cities, from one end of the borders of Egypt even to the other thereof. Only the land of the priests bought he not, for the priests had a portion assigned them of Pharaoh, and did eat their portion which Pharaoh gave them. Wherefore they sold not their land. So just explaining pretty much the distribution of the land now that's going to benefit Israel in the long run because of the famine that happened. So I'm going to start from verse 24. And it shall come to pass in the increase, and he's talking to the servants now, the people of Egypt, that ye shall give the fifth, again, that tax, that fifth part unto Pharaoh, and 4 parts shall be for yourself, in your house, on all that. Verse 25. And they said, thou hast saved our lives. Let us find grace in thy sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph made it a law over the land of Egypt unto this day, that Pharaoh should have the fifth part, except the land of the priests only, which became not of Pharaoh's. And the reason why they mentioned that is because even in the book of Numbers, when Israel got out of Egypt, we did a similar thing to where the Levites or the priests, their portion was the Lord. So their lands and stuff like that, in Hebrew law, those lands could never be sold unto any of the other tribes. They were always exclusively for the Levites because they had priestly duties to God. And it's the same parallel with how the Egyptians did religion. So it's just the Most High knows wisdom and calls wisdom when he calls wisdom in these scriptures, whether the nations are doing it or it's Israel doing it. So that's what's going on. So Israel is prospering. Verse 27. And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions therein, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the whole age of Jacob was 147 years. And the time drew nigh that Israel must die. And he called his son Joseph, and said unto him, if I now have found grace in thy sight, put, I pray thee, a hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me. Bury me not, I pray thee, in Egypt. So things are going well for Israel, but his father's going to die. So Joseph, starts to go and get the word from his father. He asks him to bless his sons. He blesses his sons, but also his father blesses the other tribes of Israel as well too. And that's in chapter 49. You guys can read that on your own, for your own sakes, because don't really touch upon the lesson. So with that being said too, Jacob is expressing to Joseph, make sure that when I die here in this land, whenever it comes to pass that all of us are going to come out as a great multitude, don't forget my bones, and make sure you carry my bones back into our homeland, our motherland, which is Canaan. You know, bring my bones back there. I'm charging you with that when eventually, as prophecy is going to declare, all of Israel leaves. All of Israel leaves the land. So with that, I'm going to get to chapter 50, verse 20, and this will be the closing scripture just to sum up everything, basically what this lesson was about. Genesis chapter 50 and verse 20. But as for you, ye thought evil. He's talking to his brothers. But as for y'all thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass, as it is this day, to save much people alive. Now therefore fear ye not. I will nourish you and your little ones. And he comforted them and spake kindly unto them. And Joseph dwelt in Egypt, he and his father's house, and Joseph lived 110 years. So, you know, Joseph eventually dies in Egypt. Israel grows in Egypt, and which would eventually lead to that would come shortly after. So with that, you guys, hopefully that was a very brief, informative, and edifying world history of Joseph dwelling in the land of Egypt as basically a king. Make sure you guys tune into all of our other lessons to get edified and stay in the spirit and learn about the real, true history of our forefathers. So with that, you guys, I'm going to say good night and shalom.